Right. Let's give a few seconds for people to join. Welcome, everyone. It's 12 p.m. Eastern. We're very excited to have you all for our Activity Strong Winter Gathering. And this is December 5th. Give a few seconds for people to join. We'll start in about 30 seconds. And if you want to use a chat to welcome everyone, we can. So. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Charles Vilmorin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Link Senior, and I'm beyond excited, beyond honored, beyond happy to be with you all today. I am, as I mentioned, the CEO and co-founder of Link Senior, who started the Activity Strong initiative. But this initiative, as you can read from this slide, is all about supporting, but also acknowledging and educating senior living, especially activity and life enrichment professionals. Link Senior started the initiative, but we partner with Activity Connection, NAP, and NCAP. Today feels extremely special for a number of reasons. One is that us at Link Senior and our partners are all 100% passionate and dedicated to person-directed living. And if there was one organization that truly resembles that and supports and is the Center for Innovation. So Susan, thank you so much for partnering with us on that event. I'll let you welcome everyone with me, and then we'll get started for our first session.
Thank you, Charles. And yes, you're right. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. Personally, I actually wrote my capstone called Reframe the Game, and really was very passionate about how we bring more meaningful life and engagement into our communities. And so was honored when you reached out, and along with representing the Greenhouse Project and the Pioneer Network, really excited to be a part of what we're going to do today. And I'm really going to get out of the way, so we'll give our presenters more time. But stay for the second break, because I'll tell you a bit more about the Center for Innovation and its associated brands, Greenhouse Project, Pioneer Network, and Empower Ed. So back to you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Susan. So our main topic of the day today is Reframe the Culture, Creating Meaningful Relationships for Person-Directed Living. If you have any question about the program, feel free to visit us online at activitystrong.com, where you'll find the whole program. Let me share with you a few kind of announcements related to the CEUs, because we get many questions about CEUs. So just to be very clear, there are 3 sessions today. You can earn up to 3 NAB, NCAP, NCTRC, and/or NCCDP CEU credits. To earn the credits, you just need to attend 1 session or the whole program. Again, 3 sessions today. And you need to fill in the survey that we'll give you in the chat, and then by email by midnight Eastern time on Friday, December 8th, so that we can process these. Please note that due to the very large number of attendees, the certificate will be sent out to you by email throughout the week of December 11th and no later than December 15th, by the end of the day. As usual, should you have any questions related to that or our other events, please feel free to send us an email at webinars, so with an S, webinars@linksenior.com. As a reminder, this session is being recorded. So if you want to share that with your friends, your family, your colleague, please do this. Or if you want to just come back because every session is going to be awesome and you want to re-listen to them, please feel free to obviously check out the recording on our website. As a reminder, the chat and the Q&A features are enabled. So one thing about the chat, as some of you might have experienced, it gets really busy. So make sure you select the drop down that says everyone, so that everyone can see your very valuable contribution. Now, if you have a question for our presenters, so for the first session, Marlon, Stacey, if you have a question for them, please direct them towards the Q&A as it makes it easier for us to filter them. Other short reminders that I personally like to give to everyone is please have fun. This is all about celebrating one of the most important part of our senior living industry, which is the engagement, the person-directed living efforts and strategies and teams. And also, a very important reminder, and I'm sure that Susan and the rest of her team would agree to that. Thank you all for what you do every single day. We believe it is essential. We believe it is the most important part of senior living. Person-directed living is senior living and vice versa. So with that very short introduction, let me share with you about the session one. We are going to put the fun in fundamentals. So let's put the fun in fundamentals. So this session is from 12 p.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to shortly introduce Marla DeVries, the Chief Learning Officer for Center for Innovation. Welcome, Marla. And Stacy Bergman, the Director of Community and Network Relations. And with that, Marla, Stacy, take it away. Thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor, and I will come back to help you with questions whenever you call me.
All right. Thank you, Charles. And I'm going to share my screen a moment. All right. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, excellent. So two things right off the bat. Want to echo, let's have fun. That's why we called this, let's put the fun in fundamentals, as well as just to echo what Charles said about the profound thank you for the work that you do and putting life into person-directed living. So we're excited to be here. I'm going to just talk about what are those fundamentals that we're going to be sharing during this first hour. And it really is about looking at meaningful life, kind of peeling things back and starting at a very foundational or basic level, and being able to assess yourself and your organization. So what are the things that you're doing well in terms of person-directed living and meaningful life and meaningful engagement, and where are your opportunities to work on and have some of those team approaches to meaningful life. So this is kind of the foundation, and then Susan and others are going to build on this as we go. So we're going to talk about the difference between person-directed care and person-directed living. And I've been told, as Charles mentioned, that this is a really robust engaged group, and I love it. And so I'm going to ask right off the bat. We've got many. I put the chat box over there, and I can just see it in my side view. It's just a rolling, but would like people to put in the chat box now. What comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when we talk about person-directed? Because that's the foundation that we're going to build on. So what does that mean to you? And Stacy, I'm going to look as much as I can, but if you want to chime in with things, that's because it's going by fast. So I saw choice, right?
Personal, individualized, right to choose. Oh, wow. All right.
Preferences, autonomy, having the opportunity, preferences. Wow, this is really like a mental test. Directed by the resident, dignity, history, listening to the residents, resident directed. Anything else sticking out for you that you're seeing?
Independent decision making, respecting, Montessori. Resident in charge, yeah.
Elders rule, tailored to individual resident, voice, choice. So all of those things, right? That's what it means to be person directed, and have them keep coming. I'm seeing a lot on choice. So we're going to talk about now, what does that mean? And we say that, words matter, right? So we're talking about what's this difference between person directed living versus person-directed care. And so I'm going to stop sharing a moment, because I want to do something. When I was like, oh, I'm going to be with a a bunch of activity professionals. Well, we got to like up our game here. So I'm going to try doing Kahoot. We'll see if this works or not. So here we go. And I know some of you are familiar with Kahoot. So Stacy, you're going to tell me if you're actually seeing it. All right, we're going to play in classic mode. Okay, so you go to www.kahoot.it. I'm going to also share this in the chat. The link that I think you can play in your phone, or you can play, you guys are getting it, you're in. All right. I've got just 3 simple questions. At least 3 of you are in. So you can use the link. And we want to explore. Wow.
Look at this. This is awesome.
That's awesome. I'm going to give it 30 more seconds. So people can come on in. And we're going to explore the difference, or just get a better understanding about what do we mean when we say care? What do we mean when we say living? Because we like to say words make worlds. And so we want to have this really foundational understanding. All right, maybe about 10 more seconds. Let's get to at least 100. All right, I don't want to cut anybody off, as it's still coming. I'm going to wait for a second until I don't see as many people popping in. Whoa. Okay. It's like I don't want to cut anybody off. What do you think, Stacy? Should I get started?
Well, Charles did mention that over 950 have signed up today. So I'm going to say we're going to need a cutoff at, let's say, let's get it to 140 and then go.
Okay.
And everybody else can write it down if they miss it.
Yeah. And it paused at 140, so that's good. Okay, so here we go. It's a word cloud. So pretty simple. And you have a minute, I think, to put your answer in. So what comes to mind when you hear the term care? I think you got to have it be one word or very short phrase, maybe. People are going. When you hear the term care, what do you immediately think of? And other people, if you're not in the game, put it in the chat. Absolutely.
Everybody wants to play. I love it.
Hey, we got another 30 seconds, so people have got plenty of time. I'm seeing love, empathy, compassion, making lives better, needing help. Saw that right at the beginning. All right, 5 seconds. All right, let's see if you can see those. I think the ones that are bigger are perhaps the ones that came up more. So compassion, love, but also I'm looking at some of the smaller ones: filling needs, helping somebody, health and welfare, debility, doing for them, protect, being a patient, healthcare, providing help with, assistance, cleaning, or helping someone be clean, I guess, being a provider, health, helping, control, filling needs. So that's kind of the picture we get with care. So now let's do a contrast and see what comes up when we hear that term living. So same thing, you have a minute. If you're in the Kahoot room, put it in there. Otherwise, we'll be checking the chat box. So I'm looking back. So care, it was more safety, health, dignity, Let's see what comes. Some similar terms: love, compassion, love, making a positive difference. What I do all the time.
What I'm doing right now, I saw it too.
Ah, nice. Living their best lives. I love it. Making moments count. Fulfillment, purpose, passion. Okay, let's see. So some similarities in terms of I see health, and some kind of different things in terms of engagement, exciting, contributing, growth, doing what you want, enjoying life, purpose. Purpose came up a lot between the chat and this. Thriving. Let's see, go down. Actualizing meaningful experiences, doing what you love, enjoying your best life. So there's a little bit of a vibe difference, I think, when I look at comparing care, which there's a little bit more of that element of that kind of that health aspect, and living, which is just a bit of a different feeling. All right, I've got one more. Let's see, I might have gotten my, all right, one more. Are you not seeing the screen? Did that stop? It might have stopped. Ooh, it got disabled. Okay, the last question, which you can't see unless you're playing, is where would you assess your organization's focus on elders? Where is it on this continuum between care and living? So if you can drop your pins, I'm seeing we've got some answers. So if we think of it, I'm going to see if I can share now. Nope, not able to share at the moment. Okay. People are getting it. It's over 100 answers. All right. Just in time, you could see the results. Ooh, oh, well, that is interesting. What does this say? It's kind of all over. So at first I saw it looked like it was a smattering in care, but it's really, there's a wide range in terms of what we're seeing in organizations right now, in terms of anywhere from, very far over on the very edge of care to pretty much kind of off the picture in terms of living out that person-directed living. So I think as we go through the rest of our section, to really think about what are those things, where am I at, and where's our organization at, and what are those nuggets that we can learn to move forward. So I think, thanks for participating. I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to my slideshow. And all right. Thanks for playing. Are you seeing this? Nope, you are not seeing the slides. Now I got to go back to this one. All right. So that gives a little picture of what we're talking about in terms of the difference of care and living. And what we promote is what we call relationship-rich, person-directed living. So, Meg, any suggestion, any help with the video? Did you get it to work on your end? Or I'll just go forward.
Yeah, I think my apologies. We are unable to share the sound, but we are certainly will be sharing your presentations, which will have the videos embedded.
Okay. I think I'm going to share this video anyway. It's just, there's just some nice music with it, but there's no one speaking. But this helps you to frame what we mean by meaningful life. So when we work with organizations that are that have greenhouse homes or are building greenhouse homes, or even wanting to work with their traditional long-term care environments and utilize our approach, this is meaningful life is one of our core values, and this is what we mean by it. And what I would like you to do, you should only be seeing a blank screen, so you're a-okay there. What you should be, what I would like you to do as you look at this video is thinking about what seems significant. What are you seeing? What are those elements that are important? It's like a 1.5-minute video. Different words or phrases that really stick out for you in terms of what we mean by meaningful life. So I will play it minus the sound. And then we'll see. Oh, no, I will not, because it says I can't even play the video. So no sound or no sound. So guess what? We're just going to go to the next thing, which is really going through what do we mean by meaningful life. And there's 4 components that I want to share briefly, and then Stacy's going to build upon this. So when we look at supporting organizations, we're really looking at these things, and you can see how interconnected they are. And I would encourage you just to think about your own organization, the things that you're doing well, and the opportunities that you might have to grow. So the first one is being elder-centered, or I like to actually flip it and say, are we being centered on the elders? So this is really about looking at where's our focus, and it's that difference between being, are we being task focused, or are we being focused on the person and putting the person before the task? It's really looking somewhat at how decisions get made. When we think about schedules, whether it's a bathing schedule or dining schedule, or any routine, there's the ability for us to ask that question or to look at what is our area of focus. So that's being elder-centered. The second one is on deep knowing. And deep knowing is not just a person's clinical needs or that care side, but it's really looking at those living needs. And it really goes beyond likes and dislikes. It's really about preferences and passions. And the video that we weren't able to show you talked about what makes my heart sing, right? How often do we think about that for the elders that we care for? Getting to deep knowing takes time. It just doesn't happen from day one, and it really is reliant on having consistent care partners. But it can start when they first move in. It's really also looking at, and Stacy will get into this much more, about meaningful events and what are the things that we're celebrating and how are we celebrating those things. I love, as I was preparing for this, I found this phrase, every interaction is an opportunity to get to know the elders better. And do we grab onto that? Do we take hold of that? The third one is autonomy and control. And I saw a lot in the group when we were talking about what does it mean to be person directed. There was a lot in the chat about choice, about control, about the ability to make decisions. Elders rule, or elders are in the driver's seat. This is that self-determination. I learned several years ago, and I'll just offer this as a nugget for you to think about. When you think about choice, right, there is the kind of simplistic view of choice, which is, do you want to wear the blue sweater or the red sweater? But when you think about choice, I learned this from a gentleman named Michael Small, who has done a lot of work in the disabilities world. And he said that choice is really, there's this equation, and it's 3 parts. It's preferences plus opportunity plus control. That if we truly want to give autonomy to elders, we have to have all 3. And control, and I love this definition, and this is the thing that you can assess in your organization. Control is the authority to make use of an opportunity to satisfy a preference. I'm going to say that one more time. Control is the authority to make use of an opportunity to satisfy a preference. So you've got to think about, are we truly giving people authority? Do they have opportunities to exercise that? And do we know what their preferences are, what their passions and their likes and dislikes? And we can look at that in terms of the rhythms of the day and opportunities that they have. And then the last one is purposeful living. And this is about, are we filling someone's day, or are we providing, and are we all, and when I say we, it's not just the role of the life enrichment team, it's really looking at all of us as care partners. Are we all mindful to giving opportunities for purposeful living? And that's rooted in understanding the deep knowing of each individual. I had the opportunity this year, earlier this year, to go to Australia and work with an organization. And they have this, what they call their 4 R's approach. And one of the R's is roles, where as an organization, they are committed to saying each elder that we support, we want to be able to understand what is the role, what are the areas that they can contribute to the life of the organization, so that we don't have just caregivers and care receivers. So I would like to do a poll. So Meg, if you could launch that poll, which is really going to look at these 4, it's an assessment, look at these 4 components. So which of these 4 does your organization do best? And try to just choose one. And then the second part of that question is, which area do you need the most focus? So give you a moment to read through and answer both of those questions, and then we'll see the results. All right, Meg, I'm going to let you determine when you've had enough votes and then share the results. Any guesses, Stacy?
Well, I see some people in the chat, so that's kind of cheating, right? I think that we're going to see a lot of deeply knowing the elders.
As strengths?
Yes.
Okay.
It's knowing who is our audience today for sure. I think if they think of their whole organization, we might see answers a little bit differently.
Okay. All right, Meg, why don't you close it and share the results? All right, survey says you are correct, Stacy, that 35% said, hey, as an organization, we deeply know the elders. And then, pretty much between 21 and 26% for the other areas. Although 16% says we struggle with all of them. And then what's the opportunity, the greatest opportunity? Interestingly enough, deep knowing also came up as the greatest opportunity. But it looks like autonomy and control is it got the lowest in terms of opportunity. So again, we just offer you this as some food for thought in terms of being able to understand your organizations. Okay, you can close the poll. I am going to share one more construct in terms of being able to assess your organization. And we use this, we call it BBS, or beliefs, behaviors, and systems. When you think about, okay, we have the greatest opportunity in terms of, or what you identified was deep knowing on both sides. But if you think of, okay, deep knowing, that's an opportunity that we want to work at. Oftentimes, what I see is in organizations is we look at the behavior side or the actions that we want the team members to take. And we say, we want you to stop doing this or start doing this. And really, behaviors or actions are driven primarily by two things, and I kind of consider them to be the bookends. So first of all, it's the beliefs, because beliefs drive behaviors. And then it's also the organizational systems, right? The processes, the policies, the procedures, the way we do things. And if we think about deep knowing, for example, and we talk about, we want to get to deep knowing in terms of how we transition from an admit or an admission process to a welcoming, right? We've got to think about, if your admission process is pretty traditional, right? There are some beliefs that drive that, or if and there's perhaps systems. I remember working with an organization, and I frequently ask this question: if I were to move into your facility, into your nursing home, how soon before I would have to get naked in front of somebody? And I've heard, like, I think the least was within 10 minutes. Right. And that's because the system has said, oh, we've got to do the skin checks. Right. But there's value in saying, let's really look at that system, because does that system create, does it create safety and security and welcoming for someone versus a different way of doing things? So I encourage you, anything that you're trying to engage in terms of change, to look at the beliefs behind it and the systems, the policies, procedures, and practices that are really undergirding whatever you're doing. One more quick system that I want you to look at, and this might not be new for many of you. It's been around for a while. It was developed by Pioneer Network several years ago with Sue Mazorski and a group of other individuals, really looking at how do we assess where we are as an organization, from being provider directed all the way to being person directed. And I'm not going to read what's on the slide, but as you read what it says about provider directed, that's the vision, that's the type of environment that people say, oh, please, don't make me go there, don't make me move in there, versus staff-centered, right, where we're making some progress, there's some accommodation for elders' needs and preferences, to person-centered, where staff are beginning to accommodate the preferences in terms of the routine, and then what we're striving for is person-directed. So this is the frame, and I think on the slide is a QR code that on the Pioneer Network website, you can get an article which goes through different things in terms, including how do elders move in, bathing schedules, some other schedules. And as Stacy and I were looking at it, one of the things we noticed is that it didn't specifically address meaningful life. So we want to look at this frame through the lens of meaningful life and engagement, and what are some things that you can do. So I'm going to quickly have Meg do one more poll, which just looks at, through the COVID lens, what have we done, where have we been, and where are we right now to get that current reality. So Meg, can you launch that second poll? I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to find out how to get rid of the, oh, got it. Sorry. Here we go. Hang on.
Okay. So during COVID, what was the dominant approach from provider directed to person directed? And then where do you think we are now, kind of across, so broadly across long-term care? Where are we at? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to make your choices there. Seeing a little bit come into the chat. And another couple seconds.
I'm very curious.
Yes. All right, go ahead and show the results, Meg. Seeing in the chat, I'm seeing more provider directed is through COVID. Okay, so strong vote for during COVID provider directed, which I'm not really surprised by that. And now we have seen that shift to strongly person-centered, with about 10% of you saying, oh, I think it's I think we're at person-directed. So we're kind of all over the place. There's opportunity for growth no matter what the starting point is. So thank you for participating in that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to use this lens to dive into more specifically around meaningful engagement.
Thank you, Marla. You did a great job with the components of meaningful life. For those of you that I've seen in chat, hello. I'm happy to be here. And just those who don't know me, I do have a lot of experience in care communities and doing these elements of meaningful life. And I, at every point of my career, was probably at the low end of the continuum until I started to really understand more about person-directedness and partnered with some great organizations like Pioneer Network, CFI, learning about the Greenhouse Project, and all these best practices to help me guide these elements in your roles, right? If those working in life enrichment, you're tasked with these things. And we're going to talk about planning across the continuum, the activity calendar, leading, and welcoming. So if you see with planning, provider directed is very much elders are our guests. They don't need to do anything. We get your orders from management or corporate. They are planning special events. There's a monthly birthday party, annual memorials. And then we lead to the staff centered, where we get life enrichment department, who normally is the one planning. The team plans the special occasions and celebrations. Then person-centered. This is where we're consulting the elders, whether it's with our assessments, with our deep knowing, we're involving them in planning and celebrating anniversaries and special occasions. And then what we want to strive for with person-directed living is that the elders are actually planning the activities. They have a variety of groups and opportunities that they plan themselves. They're empowered with the team to have celebrations that are meaningful and on the date of occurrence. And I really want to stop and highlight that there, because I know myself, my birthday is very important to me. I'm a St. Patrick's Day baby, so there's always a party on my birthday. And so I want to celebrate my birthday on my actual birthday. My husband will say I like to celebrate my birthday all month, but for all purposes, on that day, on March 17th, I want to be celebrated. So really looking at your practices when it comes to meaningful life and planning for your programming and your activities in your community. All right, Vicki, St. Patrick's Day baby. Okay, so then we're going to move to the activity.
Do you want to do the poll and just?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Marla.
All right, we've got a poll for each of these. So Meg, if you could launch the poll. So in terms of those planned activities, special events, and celebrations, where is your organization right now?
Thank you, Marla, for the reminder.
Mm-hmm. And Meg, once you feel like you've got a good percentage, then you can go ahead and close it and share the results with us. Person-centered. pretty strongly person-centered. So not quite, only 6% said person-directed, but 61% said person-centered.
So those of you who are person-centered, you know, wherever you are on the continuum, look at what could you do, you know, when you go back to your communities, go back to work, that can get you to move a little bit farther towards person-directed living. I think one of the easiest things I've done is just taken away that monthly birthday party and work with the team at your organization to ensure that on their special day that they are in fact being celebrated. So the activity calendar. So we go from provider directed, again, kind of dictated by corporate. They're telling you at your communities what you're planning. Staff centered, again, is the team members coming up with the ideas. They're distributing the calendar, and it's really based on their times that is convenient to them. We move into person-centered, where the elders are actively engaged in planning their preferred activity calendar. So they're coming to participate, and they are putting what they want into the time slots. And then person-directed, where we strive for is an active participant in determining and distributing the activities calendar. They organize it and they lead a planning committee. And also I added elders have their own calendar where they take the activity calendar that's produced and they put it in for their day. So they have their personalized calendar and they choose from the organization's calendar what they want to put in. So that's really the continuum for the activity calendar. Also, and I have never done this in my role leading a department at a community, but I know some people, they go away from a very large calendar and they go with a special routine of the day that kind of gets filled in daily by the elders. So I feel like that's, you know, very person directed, and it really puts the elder in the driving seat for deciding what they want to do on that day. So that's important also to think about.
So let's launch that poll.
Oh,
sorry. We got them. We got them. We're going to use them. Tracy.
All right. You could tell that that's not
right.
mine. So how person directed is your organization in the development and use of an activity calendar to drive daily events. So take a moment to select provider, staff-centered, person, or person-directed.
I'm just going to highlight, I'm looking at the chat, and Cheyenne wrote, I have trouble with my residents stating to me that they really don't care what they do and that they want me to schedule the activities for them. I wish they would be more engaged and participate. And the reality, I appreciate that comment. The reality is that elders become institutionalized really quickly upon moving into a residential care setting. And so we need to be the ones that can help to drive them, because it's not something, now things might change in the next 20, 30 years, but the current elders that we have, they've become pretty accustomed to being more of that, you tell me, I'll accommodate the routine of the organization and comply versus being that driving force. All right. Meg, why don't you close it out and we'll see what the results are.
And someone just asked if they can get copies of the slides, and you will be getting those.
All right. So a little bit more person directed by a couple percentage points, I think, Stacy, but still dominantly person centered, that elders are actively engaged in planning the calendar.
And also I put in distributing the activities calendar because I think it's important. And as Marla had mentioned, roles, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in this presentation, but that's a great role for elder, you know, take those calendars, distribute them, and put them up where they're needed. It just gives them a sense of purpose and participation in the community. So leading, let's talk about leading your programs and your activities and engagement. So provider directed, their management, corporate dictates who and when, how activities are to be offered. Usually it's the life enrichment team or outside entertainers or vendors. Staff centered, typically life enrichment. Staff set up, lead, execute at times convenient to their team. Elders are passive participants. We then move to person-centered. Some other team members besides the life enrichment activities department leads programs. There are some individual and independent preferences that are supported the elders. So if they don't want to be into the activity programs and they have independent pursuits or individual, they are being honored. And then to person directed. And this is where you have elders leading the meaningful activities. They have a variety of groups and purposeful opportunities, and all team members lead programs, engage elders, and support individual opportunities, and they're available daily, 365 days. And I'm stressing all team members. So when I say that, it's outside of just activities and life enrichment. And that's where we want to move to for the continuum. And I will get to the how on that again later in the presentation. So we'll the poll.
Yeah, launch that poll.
Launch that poll.
Meg, when you get a chance, can you launch? There it is. Thank you.
So how person directed is your organization in the utilizing team members beyond activities to lead and or support meaningful engagement? And make a selection, then we'll see the results.
I'm predicting that the majority will be person-centered, just based on previous ones. What do you think?
I'm gonna think staff and person-centered for this one will be close. I think we'll have a small percentage person-directed because I've seen it, where resident elders are leading programs on a daily, which is really great.
You are correct.
I was not that far off.
That's right.
And in the chat, staff and person kind of in the middle there.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. And then I just wanted to put in welcoming, and as Marla brought up that her question on how quickly does someone need to get naked when they get into a care community, you know, how are they welcomed? What are we doing for them? They're scared, they're new, and it's really important moment in the elder's life when they come to you at the community. So provider directed, this is where they're really just admitted to the facility, and I put that in there, the F word in there on purpose, and assessed by clinical team only. Then we move to staff-centered, where team members informally introduce themselves to the elder. Person-centered, new elders are welcomed by team and introduced to other elders. There's a little bit more of a formal process. And then when we look at person-directed, there's a welcoming committee, and there's formal ways to welcome new elders, not just for staff welcoming team members, welcoming elders, but also in elders welcoming elders. Worked with many organizations that had a welcoming committee. They actually collected and made bags, you know, goodie bags, welcome bags that they distributed on the day the individual arrived, with the calendar, the newsletter, and really made it very meaningful. Also had in the dining areas a table that was set for new members of the community. So it was a way to really ease into life. So really great. on welcoming. And again, there are so many ways to really look at your foundation in your own communities across the continuum when it comes to meaningful life, because we know there's so many elements, but I wanted to share 4. So we're going to do a quick poll on welcoming and see where you are in your organization across the continuum.
And while that's coming up, I see a lot in the chat about welcoming groups. So 5 residents, welcome bags distributed by one of the residents. So that seems to be a welcoming committee. So that seems to be an area that provides for that role or that purposeful living. Welcoming resident ambassadors. I love that. Welcoming committees. And as soon as the poll comes up, we'll see where people are at with this one.
A lot of people are doing the gift baskets. That's
Yeah,
great.
nice. Meg, is there one more poll that you could put up? Yeah, awesome.
So how person-directed is your organization's approach to welcoming new elders and creating a sense of belonging? There's some great ideas and things that people are sharing in the chat.
Yeah, those that do welcome bags or welcome baskets, put a little more detail about what you put in them, because people are asking. Okay.
Oh, here we go. So staff-centered and person-centered kind of being neck to neck on this one.
But this is the largest percentage we have in person directed at 16%. So it seems like in a very kind of specific small area, there seems to be a shift in terms of it's not an admission. It's not the hip fracture that we are admitting into the facility. It's this specific elder that we are welcoming into our community.
Great job. And as mentioned, just, self-evaluation of where you are in your organization and what can you add to that. I just wanted to, we talked about words make worlds, and we kind of use all of these things interchangeably, but there are differences. So when we are talking about meaningful life, these elements are all involved in that. So we have meaningful engagement, which is meaningful contact or connection. So it's daily conversations. It's, and if you want to click, Marla, sorry, simple pleasures, our ideas. These are things that any one of us can do without planning and build into our role in the community. So simple pleasures is something that at the greenhouse, we really want to work into the deep knowing of our elders. So thinking about simple pleasures. So for mine, for example, if I were to be admitted to one of your homes, I would want you to know that I must start my day with a very hot black cup of coffee. After I finish that, I like to go for a walk or at least be outside, depending on if I can't walk that day, and just, get that fresh air. These are little things that it takes some time to deeply know your residents and what these simple pleasures can be. But once we find them out and can integrate them into their daily, what a difference that can make for someone. Convivium is another idea of meaningful engagement. And that's where you dine with your elders and guests are invited. You sit around the table because that's what's normal, right? When we eat at home, we don't have somebody standing over us. We don't have people walking around. We're all sitting together and eating the same meal, sharing, having conversation. And that's really important to put into your community, community's day, your elders' day. Music assisted care, that's meaningful engagement. So what does that mean? That means personalized music that can be provided at the time of care, or exercise, rehab. We have a great community I worked with at Bailey Chase. If anyone's there, just shout out to you, who took personalized music to the next level, where they had Alexa and different resident elders playlist. So if that elder was going to the hairdresser could simply say, play Mrs. Jones's afternoon playlist, and her favorite upbeat music during her hair care was able to be played there. Same thing with a personalized morning playlist, afternoon, evening. Genuine conversations and spontaneity. So when you are taking a resident to or elder to and from the dining room, having a conversation, you know, sharing jokes, talking about each other's outfits, what you did the night before, birthdays, special occasions coming up. And then we go into the meaningful activities. So these are those recreation leisure pursuits based on interests, the elders' hobbies, and cultural preferences. So these are the things that you may see on the calendar, or just those opportunities that are embedded in your neighborhoods throughout the day. So you'll see groups, independent offerings. It's based on the strengths of each elder, and it support the domains of wellness. And then we have purposeful pursuits. So this is, why am I getting out of bed? What is there for me to do? It's focused on and engaged with working towards a elder's goal or purpose in life. It could be resident-led activity programs. It could be committees, the neighborhood roles that Marla had talked about earlier. It could be community service, where the elder is going out into the greater community, or community members are coming in for a reading program. I saw one community I worked at had a tutoring program. So after school, the children would come in and the elders would help them with their homework. And what a win-win for the children as well as the elders. Volunteering. So you will see that all of these things added together equal meaningful life. So you want to make sure that you are incorporating all of these things. And then we couldn't talk about fundamentals, and I saw someone mention it in the chat, without talking about regulations. And so providing our elders a meaningful life is not only the right thing to do, but it is a regulation. And I'm certain that most of you on this call, we won't take a poll, know this CMS FTAG 675 quality of life. So I'm not going to read through it, but I just want to highlight, it's talking about all of those things that we are already mentioning today. And it's also saying, it's ensuring that all staff across all shifts and departments understand the principles of quality of life. So again, this is support to all of you working so hard that there are regulations that say that this is a team approach. So community team approach to meaningful life. Who is the team? So the team is everyone who touches the life of the elder. And you as life enrichment professionals, activity professionals, your supported role is to educate, coach, and model meaningful life, right? You are the experts in this. So we look to you to be that coach, to be that one that's educated, but also to knowing that you need a team approach so that you can provide meaningful life in your community. So how can we do that? So there's many ways that this can be done in your organization. And here are some that are highlighted. So first off, some organizations already have universal workers. At the greenhouse, we have Shabazz, where it is a universal worker. Shabazz is someone who not only provides care, but also engages. So there is also orientation programs, Day with Life Enrichment Department, co-led programs. So asking other departments or people from other departments to lead programs with you so that they could become more comfortable in engaging and providing activities. resources and tools, and I'm going through these because we are getting close to time, but all of this information will be given out to you. Resources and tools that are available to the team members and families and residents so that they can engage throughout the day when there's not something planned. Purposeful spaces like gardens, having the opportunity to cook are great ways to engage for the elders. Activity supply and boxes, team member led programs assigned by each department. We'll talk about that real quickly here. I've seen this in organizations where it is in everybody's job description that they will provide and lead one program per month for elders, which really gives a lot of variety to your programming. We've already talked about convivium and neighborhood council meetings and socials. So this is where the team and the elders are getting together, and they may be planning events, or they just may be meeting to discuss any concerns or questions that they may have, and having those socials where they can plan together and really enjoy their time and get to know one another. And it is about deeply knowing your elders, but it's also about your elders deeply knowing you, you know, and having that reciprocation. Okay, and so we are at time, and I apologize. There was a video that we cannot play because of the sound, but hopefully that will be shared with you after the presentation. I really hope that you'll take some time to watch that as well.
And maybe we could try it during that second break. So I'm gonna welcome Charles back on. As you can see, Stacy and I could talk about this for a long, long time because it gets us very excited. So thank you, Charles, for letting us share.
Wow, and there'll be one word for me to tell you how I feel about this session, Marla, and say thank you so much for such amazing learning. It's interesting because you definitely were able to capture the essence of person-directed living. Anywhere from the the 0 to the hero scale, I feel that anyone, well, I hope that anyone has learned. I would also share the fact that it's the first time that I see more than 140 people play Kahoot. So congratulations on that. So thank you so much for being with us. If you don't mind unsharing the screen, we'll turn off the recording and then move on to the next segment of our session.